When we're talking about knowledge, because knowledge, in general terms, is an abstract concept, we have to talk about it using metaphor. At least that's the conventional wisdoms derived from conceptual metaphor theory and cognitive linguistics, and so on. The metaphors that we use for knowledge are varied, but one component of that set of metaphors about knowledge is to do with substance. And by substance I mean the largely felt sense of what that knowledge appears to be. So, for example, we talk about hard knowledge when we want to convey that the knowledge that we're talking about is permanent, that it has clearly defined edges, that it can be moved without changing, that it stays the same in a wide range of contexts, that it can be passed easily from person to person, that kind of thing. We use the term hard knowledge to apply to items of knowledge, objects of knowledge, which have the same kind of sense that hard objects do, which can, as I say, be passed from person to person, that have clearly defined edges and so on. Conversely, if we say that knowledge, an item of knowledge, is slippery, perhaps, or hard to grasp, or is something that we can't get a handle on, then we seem to be conveying a different kind of substance. Possibly, it might just be a different shape of substance, but let's stay with different kind of substance for a moment. Certainly if it's slippery or fluid, then it can't easily be passed from person to person, it can't easily be contained, it has to be carefully contextualized, and I think here context is a kind of containment. If you take away the context, the knowledge sort of runs away, runs between your fingers. Can't be contained. There's no clear boundaries in that sense, except those boundaries which are provided by context. Probably not permanent, probably does not persist over time in quite the same way, subject to change. That would be slippery and fluid knowledge. I'm trying to think what gaseous knowledge would be, if I'm looking at the three key types of substances that we routinely come across in our day-to-day lives: solids, liquids, and gases. I'm not sure if we do actually experience gases in the same way that we do experience liquids. I can feel that mix of largely nitrogen and oxygen on my face right now, but I don't experience it as an object. I feel it as a kind of force. I can feel the wind, and I can feel the temperature of the gas against my skin. I'm not sure I'm feeling that as an object. So I think I would need to do some more work on that. But it may be that there is a kind of gaseous knowledge, or something that approaches the condition of gaseousness, kind of ectoplasmic, or spiritual knowledge, something like that, something which is volatile, which is barely liquid at all, which expands to fill the space available, which has some sort of Boyle's law relationship to temperature and pressure, even, perhaps. I'll have to think about that one. Okay, but in general terms, because knowledge is an abstraction, or has to be, because knowledge in general is an abstract concept, it can only be thought of using metaphor. Almost inevitably, part of the metaphorical schema that we use to talk about knowledge is conceiving it as a kind of substance. I think this is particularly true, not exclusively true, but particularly true when we're talking about knowledge that I've referred to elsewhere as haptic, knowledge which in proximal terms is neither purely objective, either sort of over there in shared visual space, nor purely subjective, or something sort of existing at the level of taste and the gut feeling inside the body. I think when we're talking about knowledge artifacts or knowing processes which are in this sort of middle distance within the orbit of the arms, then these substance metaphors really become highly salient. And we can talk about solid, firm, hard knowledge, because those, after all, are tactile qualities. We can talk about slippery and fluid knowledge, which again are tactile experiences. And maybe we can conjecture about gaseous knowledge even.